Well, we're going to have a natter about whether the title race is indeed back on.
So we're going to go through team by team, but just give me a yes or no answer. This narrative of Leicester first, 2 from 3 second, are we moving away from that right at this moment in time?
Yeah, percentage-wise, I think, I'm kind of creeping towards there potentially being a bit more of life in it. I think if you asked the most ardent of Leicester City supporters, I would suggest there's a little bit of fear there that maybe wasn't there a month ago. Fear is probably the wrong word, but reality that, it could be automatic promotion, but there may be a little fight on their hands for the title. I'm saying it, obviously, I'm whispering it a little bit just because thinking back to Friday, it was quite reminiscent of that Ipswich game, the way it left me feeling the Ipswich game at Leicester. I thought Leicester were really, really good. And I thought they controlled it. I thought they executed their game plan really well. And I actually thought, and I'm not one for going after referees. I thought that was a terrible, terrible decision to disallow the Daka goal.
Is that not on the linesman, Sam?
Whoever it's on, the referee or the linesman. I couldn't believe they couldn't see that. I couldn't believe it. Just even the.
Can I hold my hands up? I needed the replay. I thought Chowdhury headed it, but I'm not an ex-pro, so I probably can't tell the angles like you can.
Maybe it was one of those optical illusions, at full speed, because it didn't seem to get the headlines, get the amount of conversation I probably thought it determined. I thought it was a really bad decision, and I think the game's probably done at that point. I know Leeds had a good spell towards the tail end of the first half, but I thought Leicester were superior in all departments until the last 15 minutes. And I think everyone watching it, there was a sense of inevitability that those goals would come. And huge credit to Leeds for that. I think I've played there 3 or 4 times. Of course, the fans make a massive difference. It's incredibly unique. I love that city, actually. I spent a lot of my 20s in Leeds, so I'm well versed in what those fans can do, and you have to credit them. But I thought on the night that Leicester were far and away the better side, so that's why it's hard for me to envisage that they're not going to respond and take victories. But after QPR, the next 5 teams in the top half: Sunderland away, Hull away, the massive game against Southampton, and then Bristol City and Norwich. So absolutely, in the near future, the tougher games are 100% for Leicester and probably for Southampton, and Leeds and Ipswich have the kindest next kind of 5 games. So I think the points will probably be cut even further.
Interesting. Let's work our way up from 4th to 1st then. So, I mean, just the most illogically logical championship result. Of course, Millwall are going to bring back Neil Harris and go and win at Southampton with whatever % possession they have. How concerned are you, Sam, about Southampton after the undefeated streak? And we felt a bit silly saying, oh, have the fixtures been a bit soft? We tiptoed around that, didn't we, through that run? But it is very clear now that they are backloaded with the only head-to-heads towards the end of the season all involve Southampton now, and they've got to go away to all of the big opponents at the top. Is there a concern now, if you're Southampton, that the 22-game streak was a peak, and maybe the 5 points now is going to be an issue to catch back up?
Yeah, I think there's something in that. I think we spoke about it potentially being too early, and I don't normally buy into that. The runs come too early, but it is a long, arduous season. So to continue in that vein was always unrealistic. They had won 15 out of 17 games against teams below 13. So the 2 games they hadn't won had been draws. So this was a complete anomaly. I I don't like the term flat track bullies, which
I
seems
was
to
just
be
going to ask you that, whether that was a pertinent terminology.
that seems to be the modern terminology for it. I don't like that really, but yeah, you look at the statistics; they've been immaculate in these games. So it's a little bit of one-off. You look at the nature of the goals as well. Not to say that Millwall didn't do brilliantly well. I thought their game plan was excellent. Kind of, I think it must have been to saturate the middle of the pitch. Just don't allow Southampton to play through you. Don't allow them to find the extra man, and therefore
No Flynn Downs as well, who they're missing.
Yeah, I think Smallbone played the deepest midfielder, but obviously that means your wide players, your fullbacks, have got to be immaculate for Millwall. And I think they did a fine job to stop the wingers of Southampton, who have been obviously a big part of their success, whoever's out there for them. So I thought it was a really good game plan, but a couple of really scrappy goals, possible goalkeeping error, and then a slightly dubious penalty. Good, decent spot. It probably was, but some days you wouldn't get that given. So I think they just got to write that one off. Next couple of games are relatively kind, and then it's a really hard run that they're gonna face, and we're gonna see if they can pull it out in those big games against the heavyweight sides in the division. But yeah, I would be concerned if they can go again. I think that's natural. After
and Sam, this season, when you say go again against what's going on, that means you've got to win 8 in 11 or something, doesn't it? It's just 2 points per game or whatever isn't going to be enough this season. So going again, they need a winning streak, don't they?
Yeah, and I think when you're like, players don't buy into it too much. The records that they're breaking and stuff like that. But I do think it has a little bit of an effect when you take that kind of rib shot again, a couple of defeats, and it's like, oh God, we got to go on, we got to win 4 or 5 on the spin now. Ipswich have clearly had their difficult period. They're motoring again now, and they've got some decent looking games as well. So I do think psychologically it may have a little bit of an impact. The majority of footballers are quite free spirited and just basically get ready for the next game. Without worrying about too much. But I think there would have been an excitement when they were on that tremendous run. Everyone was talking about them. All of a sudden, that's kind of diminished over the last 3 weeks. 3 defeats in 4. So it's going to be a tough ask, but they've got good enough players, haven't they, to string some results together again.
Speaking about Ipswich, just to touch on them, can we put this down to, you mentioned the slip, it was 1 win in 9 in the EFL, and I don't think that even factors in the dreadful defeat against Maidstone in the FA Cup. Is this simply explainable away to say smallest squad, did business in January to bring Sarmiento, Kiefer Moore to replace Hurst, you got Burgess back, you got Morsey back from his suspension, and bit of tiredness, I think. Really lucky to beat Rotherham, in my opinion. I was at the game, so you can debate that with me over on my vlog of that one. 5 games in 14 days. To get through that with 4 wins is excellent. And I totally agree with you. Ipswich have just got to now hang in and try and capitalise on the next 5 games, which are reasonably okay. Plymouth, Bristol City, Cardiff, and Sheffield Wednesday in good form. Blackburn, because then, Sam, if they're still in April, wow, Southampton, Norwich, Watford, Middlesbrough, Coventry is the next 5. So are they... So 2 questions, Sam. Sorry, it's a bit long-winded. Do you see them now being back where they were in the middle of December? And is it just get through these next 5 games and get to April still in the mix?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you answered the question in your question. No, I think you're right. Sorry. I think the players that have come in, absolutely. I think there's going to be a degree of maybe madness to their games, but they won't mind that. 17 goals in the last 6? I think that's far and away the best in the league over that period, even more than Leeds United, who are incredibly free scoring at the moment. So yeah, players coming back. The games are tough. The games were tough for 2 months? They were all stacked in there. I know there were some points dropped, but that it probably started with that Darby draw at Portman Road, and then the weeks after that they didn't subside. So the games were really hard. 1 win in 9 was obviously a real disappointment considering the position they were in. But I look at the next round of games with the additions to the squad, and I don't see any reason why they can't get to maybe that Blackburn away, Southampton at home week on the tails of Leeds, or maybe even slightly closer to Leicester. I don't know if they'll be able to surpass Leeds, given that their games are quite kind as well. But, I think they'll probably still be in with a shout after the next 5, which is, credit to Kieran McKenna, because I thought it was going to be the biggest test of his young managerial career, getting them back remotivated and focused. And it would have been quite easy to have fallen away and be closer to West Brom than they are the leaders.
Talk to me then about Leeds. And again, I want this podcast to try and not just tread over the same ground everybody else is, but what is the psychology now? I mean, because you just can't deny any of the numbers from January the 1st. Leeds are the best team in the league. They've won 9 games in a row. There's no point us just repeating those numbers. What is the psychology going forward now when you're on such a winning streak? Do you almost want it to, okay, let's draw a game and then go on another one, because that then becomes bigger than everything else? How do you see the sort of Leeds approach, and how long do you see this win streak going?
I think they'll be incredibly excited and enthused after that win on Friday. I think that's biggest of the lot, isn't it? Which is quite an obvious thing to say, considering where they're positioned. I think they could probably do without Chelsea on Wednesday night, is my honest truth, especially when you're seeing the team news filtering out yesterday. I think Daniel Farke did his press conference. So you're talking about a knock for Somerville, Bamford and Ruddock, I think, who all of a sudden has probably surpassed Somerville as maybe their most important player.
Oh, Sam, it's no coincidence that game turned when he started getting on the ball, didn't it?
Yeah, and something like really kind of poetic about the way he moves and he can open up defences. It's almost like the way I try to play as a youngster. And I know people watching this will look and think, what are you talking about? You're an old-fashioned number 9. But when I was younger, my dad kind of knocked it into me that run at people, be unpredictable. I'm a bigger guy than Ruddock, certainly, but defenders hate having big guys that can also handle the ball running at them. If you've got that physicality and you can also have a decent touch and you can move them and produce a little step over. So I love that about him. He'll give the ball away, but he makes so many opportunities for his team. So he'd be the one I'd be most concerned about, probably, him coming out of the reckoning at the moment. I think you can get away without Bamford. You could probably get away without Somerville maybe for a game or two, because you played Nonto and James wide, or Anthony. So, I'd be interested to see how they go tomorrow. I'm going to be there at Stamford Bridge, so I'll give you probably a more detailed answer on maybe the psychology. I expect them to go well. Probably expect Chelsea still to win, because the game is bigger for them 100% after the weekend's shenanigans in Carabao Cup and in the Championship. But I think they'll be feeling incredibly confident about the next few games. And I almost want to go back on my prediction that they might not falter in these next ones. I just think Huddersfield at home is a difficult game for them. I think maybe tactically, surprise element as well from a new manager going in. But I think Leeds will go there very confident that they can win the game. But I think that's going to be a tricky one. I think it'll only be a goal margin if they are to get maximum points, which I wouldn't have said a month ago.
Well, there you go. That's a little look at the top 4 and the title race, which we have to say is really, really delivering, Sam. And just to round this out, Leicester are projecting 105.5 points. Leeds and Ipswich, 97.41. And Southampton would be 4th on 90.65. So whatever happens, we're going to get some amazing points totals. And we'll see if we get some amazing drama or everything kind of plays out and stays how it is.